Hey, I'm Jay Kumar, the BassBlaster, and this is your Seafoam and Kistler top 5 of the week in bass fishing. Number 1. Unleash the power! No, guys, not the Power Rangers, Power Man. Yeah, that guy, just not so old. We're talking about the Power Man of bass fishing, Ish Monroe. A couple weeks ago, he was flipping 7-inch tubes with 12-aught hooks for double-digit bass and 30-pound sacks at Clear Lake, California. And last weekend, he won the BAM Pro-Am on the California Delta Power Man fishing again. He made about a 45-mile one-way trip each day to fish around nobody except the bass. He had a 2-tide strategy. Low tide, his main baits were a 1/2-ounce jackhammer with a missile Spunk Shad and a river to sea whopper plopper in the yellowhead color. High tide, he punched anything that looked good with a missile D-bomb in that same red rotten tomato color. And the top water was a river to sea ish fat matte daddy frog in that yellowhead color. He said his 2 best baits were the jackhammer and the frog. But I have to point out, in true Power Man fashion, he punched with an 8-foot heavy rod and 70-pound braid. I got that power. I asked Ish what his workout was to fish all this Power Man stuff, and he texted me this. Haha, you know it! Let's see what Ish said about birds. Number 2. Yeah, Bass Fishing America, have you heard about the bird? When it comes to topwaters? Let me tell you what I mean, or really, let me tell you what Ish Monroe said. Check out these 2 topwaters, which are half the baits Ish used to win the BAM Pro-Am at the California Delta. Notice anything? Of course you do, they're the same color. It's a color Ish loves called yellowhead.
I wonder why.
Yeah, me too, Sabertooth, but I think it's because that head is yellow.
That boy ain't right.
Easy there, Hank. Anyhow, a black topwater with a yellow head? I asked Ish about it, and he said that's because there are yellow-headed blackbirds all over the Delta. So what he's saying, I guess, is that those birds fall into the water enough, or bass look up and see them enough that they like that color. So do we now match our topwater colors to our local birds? Doesn't sound too bad, unless maybe it's the purple gallinule, or however you say that, or the painted bunting. All right, anyhow, this isn't the first time that birds have played into a winning pattern.
Can you imagine being a bass, how good a blackbird would taste?
The other time I remember was back in 2015 when fellow West Coaster Aaron Martins won the Bassmaster Elite on Lake Havasu, Arizona. His winning pattern was flipping toolies, trying to catch bass that were trying to eat baby birds, blackbirds that were falling out of the nest. He said he got dialed into that thing when he saw black bird feathers spit up in his live well. But he was flipping green pumpkin baits. He wasn't matching that hatch, go figure. But one thing we all learned about Aaron was no matter how weird it sounded, never doubt him. Love you, bro. All right, that ends our lesson on fishing the birds.
Class dismissed.
Number 3. Haha, yeah! I don't know if Tennessee's Mateo Toronto is 6 feet tall, but he for sure is an All-American man because he just won the BFL All-American on Lake Hamilton, Arkansas. Now, you probably know that the All-American is the toughest tournament to qualify for, let alone win, along with the Bass Nation Championship that there is in the amateur ranks. Now, winning that tournament is a huge deal, and a bunch of past winners have kept on climbing up to the pro ranks. Mateo had 56 pounds, 11 ounces, and won by just 3 pounds. That was over 3 days, so it was a tight deal. Usually that means there's not a lot of big fish in a lake. Well, either way, Mateo's daily average was 1 pound better than everybody else's. Congrats to him, man. That's awesome. Now, he caught him by pinging a minnow which you might not be surprised by, but I believe that's the first time a BFL All-American was ever won by someone doing that. Now, even though two well-known forward-facing sonar guys, Paul Marks Jr. and Emil Wagner, won the previous two BFL All-Americans, forward-facing sonar didn't really play for him. Mateo said he tried a bunch of stuff in practice and caught fish on it, but he hooked a big one on that jig and minnow, and that gave him confidence in that bait. It doesn't sound like he ran a pattern. He was just beaming and looking for bigger fish all over the place. He even caught some fry garters on the minnow. He said, "I just put the trolling motor down until I see a big one on live scope, and then I try to catch it. I'm passing over lots of little fish, and it gets very mentally draining. That's what I was doing the last 3 days, just moving really slow."
I am almost exhausted.
I bet. Now, he wouldn't say what his minnows were, same deal as when he finished third at the recent Guntersville Toyota. But he fished them both times on a Buckeye Baits G-Stroll jig head and Phoenix K2 Torzite spinning rods. Now, some folks asked Mateo how he felt about winning such a huge event, and he was like,
I feel good. I feel good. I can eat it good, yeah.
"I bet you do, man." Number 4. Once upon a time, back in the olden days of bass fishing.
5 years ago?
Yeah, about that long ago. People tied on hard plastic baits that had lips on them. They were called crankbaits.
No way, dude.
Yes way, you guys are just too young to know. But these young guys aren't. That's Gage King and Banks Shaw of the University of North Alabama, who just won the Bassmaster College Series tournament on Lake Chickamauga, Tennessee. And guess what they were doing? Cranking. Not exclusively, but they were cranking up deep fish with a Strike King 10XD in citrus shad and green gizzard. Yep, they were fishing ledges and bars, and
Riddle me this.
yeah, riddle me this. How would they know how to fish crankbaits if they never fished them? And how would they have the confidence in them to fish them in a tournament they could win if they never fished them?
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Yes, I am. And another example was the recent Guntersville Toyota, where half the top 10 cranked. That includes winner Isaac Peevyhouse, and in fact, Isaac also cranked a 10XD. It used to be that the 6XD was all that on ledges. Is it 10XD time now?
It's time, Robbie. It's time.
You heard it. Number 5. How long has the Megabass Vision 110 jerkbait been thought of as the best jerkbait in bass fishing? Well, it was introduced in the fall of 2000, so I guess about 25 years? Can you believe that? Hey, that's actually 2 yeses. Anyhow, that's a heck of a run for a hard bait, and especially now that there's a lot more really good jerkbaits. Which, of course, is because the Vision 110 set the bar so high. And it's because forward-facing sonar gave new life to jerkbaits. And it's also because Hank Cherry won back-to-back Bassmaster Classics with a jerkbait, one of which was a Vision 110.
And for the second year in a row, the Bassmaster Classic ends with a cherry on top.
Anyhow, 25 years later, we're still seeing the Vision 110 in top 10 baits photo galleries pretty often. And is it me or is it Matt Shad almost all the time? Anyhow, the reason I mention all this is because there's a new Vision 110. It's called the Vision 110 SR for Shallow Runner. Now, the deal with this bait is, no surprise, it runs shallower than a typical Vision 110, so about 0 to 4 feet. It has a similar but different action, apparently more horizontal left to right versus yanked up and down. And apparently it doesn't need a big jerk to get it started doing its thing. The SR has already made an impact because it was one of the baits that Nick Hatfield used to win the MLF Heavy Hitters Tournament. He was fishing it on shallow points in Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia, and he said he really likes the action that bait gets from that short cupped bill. And he said it reminds him of the bill that's on the Megabass Ito Shad, which is a bait he also really likes. Okay, that's just a quick rundown of an addition to one of the most successful bait lines in the history of bass fishing. So when the bass are up chasing bait shallow, you can get your jerkbait on now like
Donkey Kong!
Heck yeah, man. All right, that's all I got for you this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Seafoam and Kistler. See you next week. God bless you.